That's the word for us. Let's look at our options. Option A, let's set the error down to inexperience. Okay, so here again, it's a phrasal verb, right? Set down. Let's set down means let's put it down to so and so. So sometimes these phrasal verbs, can even be divided. They don't always come together. So for example, I have the object coming in between set and down, right? It's dividing. Set down is the phrasal verb, but let's set what down? The error down to inexperience. So keep that in mind. Option B. So set down here, just to add, means to assign to a cause. So you're saying, hey, let's put this down. Let's put this down, or put this reason to, or attribute. That's another word. Let's say the reason for this error is inexperience. So that's the reason. Cause means reason, right? Option B, it is wise to set food and money by in case of a future emergency. So here again, there's another phrasal verb for you, set by. Set by. Set what by? Food and money. So what does set by mean? That's another phrasal verb for you. To reserve for future use, right? That's what the context is saying also. It is wise to reserve food and money in case of a future emergency. Option C, a parent must set a good example for the children. So setting a good example, this is again a collocation. We've heard people use this expression repeatedly in various contexts, right? You need to set a good example to your younger brother. You need to set a good example so people will understand or know what to do or what is the right thing to do in this situation, right? So that again seems pretty fine. So here we're saying be a role model. Option D. So a parent must be a role model to their children. Option D. Evening was setting as I took the road over the hill. So if all the other three options are correct, our error has to be in option D. Evening was setting as I took the road over the hill. Meaning what? Usually we say the sun was setting, right? But if I have to use evening, I would say the evening was setting in, right? Just to give an example, the evening mist was setting in, right? So you have setting in as a construction here. So evening was setting as I took the road over the hill is not the right usage. Evening was setting in, or the sun was setting. That would make more sense. So our answer here is option D is the context where the usage of the word set is used incorrectly. Wait. That's our highlighted word. Let's look at our options. Option A, I'm just waiting to see him lose in one of his reckless wagers. Option B, he needs to have a cup of coffee waiting in the bed every morning to get up. Option C, he augmented his income by waiting on tables in small restaurants. Option D, I had to wait in line for almost an hour to get to the ATM. Okay, let's look at our option A. What meaning does this context bring here? I am waiting to see him lose. This is again, we've heard people say this, right? I'm just waiting. I know this person. I know this is what they will do. This is something that I expect of them to do. So I'm awaiting this particular reaction or this particular outcome or result from this person. So I'm just waiting to see him lose. So basically, probably this person, they know this person that they're pretty reckless in whatever they do, right? So they know that the outcome is going to be negative. So to remain or stay in expectation, right? That's the meaning that this context gives. You expect this to happen, right? You await. Second option, he needs to have a cup of coffee waiting in the bed every morning to get up. Okay? The right expression is not waiting in the bed, right? Imagine waiting by the bed. I want you to apply a little bit of logic here. When you wake up, the coffee is set on a table beside the bed, right? By the bed. Not waiting in the bed. The expression is waiting by the bed. So as soon as you wake up, you have your coffee ready. Let's look at option C. To wait by. That's our word. Wait on. You're waiting on someone. That's a different expression again, right? You're waiting for someone. That's a different expression again. So the idea is for us to, you wait by the phone, right? Which means you're standing by the phone. You're expecting a call and you're waiting by the phone. Waiting by the bed, waiting by the phone. So in our context, the coffee is not on the bed or in the bed, but it's by the bed. It's placed by the bed. He augmented his income by waiting on tables in small restaurants. To wait on tables means what? To wait tables, right? Either you're a waiter or a waitress. That's the meaning. Good. So waiting on tables means you're a waiter or a waitress. That's your job. Last one, I had to wait in line for almost an hour to get to the ATM. Meaning what? It's just the mere act of waiting. That's it. You're waiting your turn. You're standing in a line. So obviously there are a lot of people ahead of you. Once they're done with their job, then it'll be your turn, right? So act of waiting. So here in our context, option B is where the word wait is used incorrectly. Everything else, you just need to be familiar with the expression itself. Waiting on tables, waiting by the bed, waiting by the phone. Bark. That's another word we have. Bark. Let's look at our options. Option A, the street was noisy with the vendors barking their wares. Option B, the rhinoceros is famous for its very thick bark. Option C, you seem to be barking up the wrong tree and blaming your neighbor. Option D, the bark of the cinnamon tree is used as a spice. Okay, so let's quickly underline the word where it's used with its expression. Thick bark, barking up the wrong tree, the bark of the cinnamon tree. Okay, so let's understand the meaning the context gives us. So if you look at so far whatever questions we've seen, we've looked at a lot of expressions, we've looked at a lot of phrasal verbs, we've looked at a lot of collocations, right? Let's see if we can identify some here. In fact, I've highlighted the phrase in which the word appears. So maybe one or two of you can guess if you're familiar with that expression or idiom or phrasal verb. Option A, the street was noisy with the vendors barking their wares. What does this mean? Barking their wares. Are you familiar with this? So if somebody is barking their wares, means they are advertising with a persistent outcry. They're shouting at top of their voice. They want to make sure that their product is heard and people are understanding or following what they are selling, right? So a couple of clues for you is noisy, vendors. So they're advertising their products, shouting at the top of their voice with persistent outcry. So in this context, the expression is correct, the meaning is correct, shouting, yes. Option B, the rhinoceros is famous for its very thick bark. Now bark, if you take the word, immediately I can only quickly relate it to a tree, the bark of a tree. Pretty common, simple word, right? So here we're referring to an animal. When you're referring to an animal, what's the right word that you would use? We're talking about, okay, take the animal rhinoceros. The first thing, one of the characteristic feature of a rhinoceros is its skin, right? So in the context, what would be the appropriate word? Would you say bark, which we always refer to only when we talk about a tree? For an animal, what would we say? Either we say hide or skin itself, right? So here, slightly incorrect usage. However, let's quickly check C and D. You seem to be barking up the wrong tree. Barking up the wrong tree is an idiom, which means what? Any guesses? So, barking up the wrong tree means basically you're misdirected. You think this is what it is, but the reality is not that, right? So, you're misdirected. So, barking up the wrong tree means misdirect your efforts. It's very typical, right? In a family where there are siblings, right? The younger one would have actually made a mistake, and then the mother is going and yelling at the older one, thinking he or she made the mistake. So, barking up the wrong tree. Fourth one, the bark of the cinnamon tree, which we already know that's the right usage. We usually talk about the outer layer of a tree as bark. So our option here is option B. The rhinoceros is famous for its not thick bark but thick skin.